We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman, issue 125. This is from the Rebirth line, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez. Temu Mori did the colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Jorge Jimenez did the cover, associate editor Dave Walgos, Ben Abernathy editor. This is part one of the storyline Failsafe. The cover is pretty cool, but it's just a pin-up, doesn't tell you anything about what's going on in the book. And Batman has himself a scary nightmare, so he has to call Selina because she's his mommy, and she has to comfort him because he's so sad. And then he goes out and catches a bad guy who murdered some people, and it turns out that these were friends of his that were killed, and Oswald Cobblepot is taking credit. He is going after the rich people of Gotham if they don't redistribute their wealth to everybody else. So Batman and Robin, Tim Drake in this case, set the stage to go out to a gala where a bunch of rich people are going to be gathered so that they can face off with Cobblepot, because they know he's going to attack. And of course he does, and Batman puts on his mask in the middle of a crowd of people for some reason, because nobody would ever figure out that the guy that they were just talking to, now wearing a Batman mask, is Bruce Wayne. And not everything is as it seems. Robin ends up getting critically wounded and has to go to the hospital, and Bruce has to take his costume off, even though it's going to be pretty easily noticed that people saw Batman carrying Robin, who got shot in the neck, and they're going to put one and one together. I mean, this really takes a lot of leaps of logic. And of course, Penguin manages to frame Batman by taking a cyanide capsule, and even though Batman is trying to give him first aid, everybody's going to assume Batman did it for some reason. Overall, the story's okay. It does take a massive suspension of disbelief on some real logical inconsistencies. And of course, we have the entire, rich people have to give up their money to the poor nonsense, which is tiresome in comics these days. And the end is a cliffhanger leading to something, I don't know, they really didn't set that up very well. This is probably going to be better read in trade format, but it's okay. The art's not bad. I would like it if they would stop using emotion lines like exclamation points and little action lines to emphasize somebody being shocked. I know it's something they've picked up from manga, where people that are angry or shocked have these little almost exclamation points or lines. Sometimes there's actual exclamation points and sometimes it's question marks. I think that's weird and lazy. If you can't portray it in their facial expression, you're failing as an artist. Because the art could hold up on its own, otherwise Jimenez has gotten a lot better, but the constant use of action lines is very, very distracting. Now there's a backup story, unfortunately, called Two Birds, One Throne, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Belin Ortega. Luis Guerrero did the colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgos editor, Ben Abernathy group editor. Catwoman goes to the Iceberg Club to try and break up some gang warfare that's going on, and the underbroker shows up with his robot lawyer named the Executor, and the robot lawyer, I kid you not, is going to execute Cobblepot's will, and he is trying to get people around to get their inheritance, and it's setting up this wacky storyline where Selina's gonna work with him. Haha, this was lazy. This was stupid and lazy. A robot lawyer that wears glasses. Seriously? Are you even trying here? The art is pretty much okay. The action scenes need a lot of work though. Individuals look okay. The backgrounds look kind of cut and paste. So overall the characters look fine, but the action sequences look like garbage, and there's way too much jibber jabber. Again, the problem here is also in storytelling that they rely on Graflex. If you can't use the swear word, substitute something else or don't use it. It looks like lazy writing, and it's done throughout the issue. Chip Zdarsky is notorious for this. It's one of his worst failings, other than trying to be funny. When he tries to put a swear word in it, oh, they won't let me, so I have to put the little squiggly lines. It's stupid. It's very, very lazy writing. Stop doing it. So overall, I was pretty disappointed. I'd been hearing hype about this book for a while now, and while it's nice to see that Jimenez's art is getting better, it would be nice if he would drop the pseudo manga action lines, because it really hurts his art, and it's not adding what he thinks it's adding. It's not giving it get that manga flair. It just looks weird, and like there's random little laser bolts floating around because they're shooting out at somebody or at somebody. It's really dumb. And the art in the backup story was kind of a mixed bag. It's okay, but it's amateur work. It should be more high-end Dynamite stuff and not a lazy backup in a Batman book. So I'll recommend this if you can find it at a dollar bin. I just thought there were too many plot holes and inconsistencies in the storytelling. I'm just not that impressed with it. So if you're not pulling it out of a back issue bin for well under the $6 asking price, I would say pass on it. This is a $2 book at best. If you paid more than $2 for it, you're probably going to get ripped off. Unless you really like inconsistent, bad storytelling. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one. Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 126. This is from the Rebirth line, and this is part 2 of Failsafe, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tomeu Mori, letters by Clayton Cowles, cover by Jorge Jimenez, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. So Robin's back on the street with a giant bandage on his neck, because apparently getting shot in the throat is something you could just kind of walk off. And Batman's like, you shouldn't be out, and Robin's like, oh, you're not my real dad. This is basically how it went. And while Batman's sitting around in the Batcave, a giant robot attacks him, and he has to get saved by getting dragged down the street by the Batmobile in the middle of the night, where there's a bunch of cars driving, I guess, for some reason, because nobody's gonna make that connection. And he puts his mask on while he's in the middle of the street, because nobody's gonna recognize Bruce Wayne, multi-millionaire, former billionaire, who used to be all over the news for being a playboy. Nobody's gonna recognize him putting on a Batman mask. Well, Failsafe continues to beat the snot out of Batman for a while. Batman has no idea what he's doing, and he's just getting worked over pretty heavily. The rest of the Bat family shows up almost immediately. Apparently they were just in the neighborhood. And Nightwing makes it all the way from Bloodhaven in like 2 seconds. And Robin gets Batman in the Batmobile, while everybody else kind of stands around for a minute before fighting a giant robot that's really scary. And then the robot sort of teleports, I guess, to the Batcave where Leslie is waiting to help Batman. We don't really know what happens to her because she's not seen again in the rest of the issue. And Batman and Robin are, I guess, in a different part of the Batcave? I'm not sure, it doesn't say. And Batman decides to do something really hokey, and we're left with a cliffhanger ending. The second story, which is the backup, is Two Birds, One Throne Part 2, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Belin Ortega, Luis Guerrero, colors, Clayton Cowles, letters, Dave Walgo's editor, Ben Abernathy group editor. The Executor, which is a giant robot who apparently handles crime bosses' wills, because that makes sense. Whatever, just go with it. Has Catwoman tracking down heirs to Cobblepot's empire, I guess, and somebody has been killing off his kids. Catwoman runs into this person, but the guy gets away. Apparently the last remaining heirs show up, and that's Addison and Aiden Cobblepot, and they show up to claim everything, but they only get the Iceberg Lounge. The money goes to a bird sanctuary, and they're very unhappy about that. And there's something strange about them. That backup story is kind of stupid. It's really silly. Over the top silly. The whole thing is over the top silly. At least there's some action in the first story that's worth reading, but honestly I was really kind of bored with this. It was like a vapid, not very intelligently written book. I was really bored. I know people are gonna like this for the action elements, and that's fine, but the storyline doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Apparently this robot is just some genius level robot. It's almost like in Super OMAC with Amazo parts. It doesn't say what happened to Leslie and how Nightwing made it across one city and into another in like 2 minutes is a little beyond me. But I was just not impressed with this. Some of the art's okay. Like I've said, Jorge Jimenez is getting better. He needs to stop with the anime action lines though. Those are really, really annoying. But the coloring was really well done. The backup story's art's, it's okay, it's functional. I didn't hate it. If you're gonna pick this book up, don't pay more than $1 or $2 for it. It just wasn't worth it. It has about the storyline depth of a Fast and Furious movie if you're half awake and the writer had a stroke halfway through the writing of the storyline. I don't think Chip Zdarsky had a lot of good ideas here that he could drag out long enough, so there's a lot of padding, especially the backup story. The backup story reads like an afterthought where he's trying to be cutesy, and it's just dumb. The cover is okay, and it does relate to what's in the book, but it can't salvage this mess. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 127. This is from the Rebirth line, and this is part 3 of the story Failsafe. Written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez. Tomeu Mori did the colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. Cover by Jorge Jimenez and Tomeu Mori. Cover's okay, it's just a pin-up, tells me nothing about what's going on in the book though. Get a flashback to a scene where Batman got kicked out of the Justice League in the Tower of Babel storyline because he had contingency plans if anybody in the Justice League went rogue, and Ra's al Ghul got a hold of that and bad things happened. Well, then we cut forward to the modern day, and Batman has unleashed a psychological protection that was first introduced back in Batman R.I.P., and it's this goofy idea called the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, and it's basically just a pure Batman, no Bruce Wayne, with a really ridiculous costume. I guess DC just cannot ignore stupid storylines and move on. They gotta revisit them every now and then. The android was created by the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, and it's rampaging through the Batcave, and Tim and Batman have to try and stop it, so they get these like lightsaber things. It's a little vague on what that actually is supposed to be, but they're like fire swords or plasma swords or something silly like that. So they have lightsabers, and they're fighting this robot and doing absolutely nothing to it. Meanwhile, a bunch of the Batman crew is being taken to the hospital, but they gotta keep their masks on because nobody's gonna peek under those. I don't think modern comic writers understand secret identities at all, and it shows in stories like this. So the failsafe is pretty clear on what it's doing, and it understands Batman's contingency plans, so it's already planned around them and is beating the snot out of Batman. And of course, Batman has to argue with himself about Robin. I don't know, something. And then somebody shows up to help. In the backup story, this is the finale to Two Birds, One Throne, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Belén Ortega, Luis Guerrero colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor, Ben Abernathy group editor. And this is the most pointless installment of the story. We see a man buy some muffins. It's real exciting. And then we find out that he is in fact Oswald Cobblepot. Big twist-a-rooney. He's not dead. He just framed Batman to make it look that way. And then him and Catwoman have a little chat. He calls Batman a fascist because why not? And then they talk about their lives and how they're all addicted to Batman and power. It's real exciting. And they sit around and talk some more. And then she talks a little bit to herself and goes off on adventures. Yay! Oh my gosh, what a complete waste of space that was. There's no action in that one at all. The art's okay, except for the final page. The art in the main story's not bad. It looks a little more rushed than some of the others, and I just thought the story was completely ludicrous and boring and pointless. I'm not going to recommend this issue. If you get it out of a dollar bin, I'm sure it'll be fine, but if you're paying more than $1 or $2 for this, it's just a waste of money. This is silly. It's clear that this was just Zdarsky writing for a paycheck because this is really lazy writing. It's a goofy storyline. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's very fast-paced, but not in a good way. It just looks rushed. And they're destroying all sorts of things. They're destroying parts of the Batcave. There's no concern at all because they break the clock entrance to the Batcave and they just blow it up. Like, there's a giant entrance to the Batcave now that anybody could just wander by a window and see. It's absolutely ludicrous. I don't know. It's just everything about this storyline is striking me in the wrong way, and I'm not happy about it. Because some of the art's okay. This issue, like I said, looks a little bit more rushed than the others, and it has the stupid action lines everywhere. It's very manga influenced, and that really bothers me. But the backup story's a complete joke. What a complete waste of time. I'm not going to recommend this. This is trash. I'm bored with this, but I've got another several issues of the book here, so we're going to look at them. Hopefully it'll get better. I'm not happy about this, though, that I spent $5 on this book. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman 128. This is from the Rebirth line. This is part 4 of Failsafe, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, Tomeu Mori colorist, Clayton Cowles letterer, cover by Jorge Jimenez, associate editor Dave Walgos, Ben Abernathy editor. Cover's well done, but it has nothing to do with what's going on in the book. It's just a weird fire picture that would have related better to last issue. So Superman shows up, but Failsafe, being programmed by Batman, is of course designed to take down Batman, but also has defenses against all of the Justice League. So he's got some kryptonite daggers of sorts. Some other Leaguers show up and get their butts handed to him after Superman gets stabbed. Robin's got to drag them onto the jet to try and get them out of there, while the Leaguers are holding off Failsafe. Of course, they all get lured to a city block which was owned by Batman and is full of traps that have been apparently maintained throughout this entire time that Failsafe's been in storage. So all those failsafes are designed to take down the League, and Batman, being severely injured, makes a desperation play, and he's out of the game for 2 weeks. So, of course, Failsafe has taken over as the new Batman, I guess, and runs it like OMAC did back in the OMAC storyline. I don't really know what they're going for, but this is really looking like a bad knockoff of OMAC. Then there's a backup story about the origin of the Batman of and this one is written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Leonardo Romero, Jordi Belair on colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgos editor. And this being a backup story is of course pretty rushed. I'm not a giant fan of the art. It's a half throwback to the 50s, which could be fine, but it just doesn't really work for the story they're telling, which apparently is something's going on. It looks like the Joker's not in his usual state, and this is early on in Batman's career. He's trying to cope with the fact that he got mind controlled by Professor Achilles Milo, and this alternate Batman is an attempt to deal with that kind of psychological manipulation. The idea is fine, it's just the art doesn't really match the story. It's kind of a dark story with this happy, shiny 50s art. The art in the main story is not bad. I think it's functional. Again, there's like the goofy action lines and stuff like that. And sometimes people's faces look a little weird, especially on Nightwing. But the story beats just don't really match up. There's too much forced action. It's not action that makes sense within the context of what's going on. They're destroying like all of Wayne Manor and parts of the city, and apparently nobody's gonna notice this, that there's a giant robot that looks vaguely like Batman trouncing through Wayne Manor, and then all these areas that Bruce Wayne happened to own at one point that apparently contain booby traps that nobody's ever found and have never malfunctioned in the years this thing's been in storage. But don't overthink it. If you look at it like a Fast and Furious movie, then it's an okay read for like $1 or $2, but I would not pay more than that for it. Even at cover price, it's not a good value. So I didn't get much out of this. I'm just not a fan. It really feels like Zdarsky's phoning it in, and the storyline feels like a rehash of OMAC, which I wasn't a giant fan of when it came out. So it's not the fun Billy Blank OMAC, it's the weird 52 one. So it just isn't working for me, and I'm not impressed. So I'm not going to recommend this unless you find it for $1 or $2. It's just not that interesting. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman 129. This is from the Rebirth line, and it's also part 5 of Failsafe, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez. Tomeu Mori did the colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgos associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. Covered by Jorge Jimenez. Cover's really cool, actually. That probably would have got me to buy the book, because I'd have wondered what that was all about. But this is part 5. So Batman is down in Atlantis, watching as Failsafe basically just lets the city burn because its main function is to take down Batman in case he kills someone. Now, apparently Alfred had been in charge of resetting the activation in case of false alarms. When the news came out that Batman allegedly killed Penguin, nobody reset the alarm because nobody else knew about it. Aquaman sends his friends to try and stop Failsafe because other Leaguers haven't been able to, but Failsafe seriously injures Arthur and drags him down to find Batman, but Batman Batman's already gone. He's at the Watchtower, and he manages to slow down Failsafe there, but even that's not gonna stop Failsafe. And Batman has a cunning plan, but it might be at the cost of himself too. So we're left with a cliffhanger ending that leads into next issue. Now there is a backup story, I Am a Gun Part 2 by Chip Zdarsky, art by Leonardo Romero, Jordi Belair on colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. This one is a part 2 of the origin of Batman of Zen and R. Joker's not laughing anymore, and he has his own utility belt because that's not incredibly silly. And Batman has to go in and stop him, but he already killed a bunch of people, and it's showing that Batman may have like multiple personalities because the subconscious Batman Zen and R seems to be trying to take over. I don't know, this one just doesn't work for me. I've been real hit or miss with the Failsafe stuff, but at least this installment was a lot more fun. The action made sense, the pacing was better. I'm still not in love with it, but it's okay. That story was definitely picking up this issue. The art's not bad, it's just not an appropriate style for as unnerving as the story is. Although the artist is very talented, and the way he draws Batman's pretty good, I just don't think it was an appropriate style. If this had been more of a 1950s story where it was a little lighthearted and unserious, then I think it would have worked really well. But the art was definitely better in this installment than in the last one. I'm just not a huge fan of that style. Overall, this issue was definitely better than last issue. The main story was better, the backup story was okay, the art was solid, just the story itself didn't really work, and I don't know, it's not doing it for me though. The Failsafe storyline hasn't been that exciting to me. This was probably the best installment so far in Zdarsky's run, but it's, I don't think, worth $5. I would say if you pick it up for half the cover price, then it would be fine. As a standalone, there's enough action, and it does a pretty decent job of catching you up and more or less as to what's going on. You're going to be a little confused about the whole Batman of Zurindarar, whatever, I don't care, it's stupid. It's really stupid, but the action scenes were cool this time. So I would say if you find it for half cover price, then check it out. Beyond that, it's really not worth the money. And if you're not going to read the whole storyline, which I'm not really recommending at this point, I would say it's not a great standalone. Not a very high praise on this one, just if you find it for a couple bucks, maybe you'll like it. I wouldn't seek it out. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 130. This is the finale of the Failsafe storyline, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tomeu Mori, Clayton Cowles letters, Jorge Jimenez did the cover, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. So Batman is drifting through space, but don't worry, he does what they did at the end of Dark Star and hijacks a little rocket pack, uses a surfboard and glide through Earth's atmosphere because that totally makes sense. And then he just lands right outside of Fortress of Solitude because sure, why not? Failsafe gets there almost immediately and Superman fights him yet again and then loses again. And then Batman and Robin go out to fight Failsafe with a cunning new plan that really doesn't seem to work, and Failsafe just pulls out a gun and shoots Batman. We're left with what they think is an incineration and a hint that something is not quite right. There's a backup story, which is I Am a Gun. This is also a finale. This is written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Leonardo Romero, Jordi Belair colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. We learn how Batman got the yellow around his chest symbol as the Batman of Zurinarg. Almost kills the Joker, but don't worry, Batman's not totally crazy and he stops himself. This was dumb. That story was so stupid. The art's okay. This issue I like the art fairly well. It just doesn't fit the tone of the story. The main story was ludicrous. The art's not too bad. Again, it focuses too much with the manga face on everybody and the action lines, which is more of a manga thing. That hybridization really just doesn't work. I am not going to recommend this issue. I'm not going to recommend this storyline. This was some of the laziest pop psychology I've ever seen. It was poorly written. Nothing worked in it. Previous issue 129 was probably the best installment. Even that was fairly mediocre. This was garbage. I don't know what they're thinking, but I'm not impressed at all. This is It's not as meta as they're pretending it is. It's just low-level pop psychology with Batman doesn't kill morality constantly wedged in your face, and it has all the depth of a Fast and Furious movie, which is to say none. So the whole Batman of Zur and R is ludicrous and just lazy writing. So I was not impressed with any of this. I'm not going to recommend this crap. Thankfully, I only have a few more issues that I bought that I have to go through, but I am really unimpressed and very disappointed with Zdarsky's run so far. This has just been really, really weak. So don't waste your money. If you pull it out of a dollar bin, maybe I would chance it then. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.